Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are diving straight into what is, without a doubt, the single most captivating phenomenon of the 2026 World Cup. I'm talking about the absolute, unstoppable, thunderous rise of the Norwegian national football team. Honestly, this wasn't just a sporting event, it was a massive cultural wave that literally shook the ground. We're going to break down the tactics, the controversy, and a totally shocking secret weapon that you would never expect. Let's get right into it.
Let's kick things off right at the tip of this cultural iceberg. Star striker Erling Haaland actually captured the raw emotion of the viral Viking Row chant perfectly. He said, "This is bigger than football. It gives you goosebumps." And he hit the nail on the head. When thousands of people completely synchronize their movements and their voices like that, it creates this visceral energy that completely transcends the sport itself. But you know what's crazy? The Viking Row wasn't cooked up in some slick corporate boardroom, not at all. It was actually created by a primary school teacher named Ole Frøystad. He basically noticed that the word row in a local club chant sounded exactly like the English word row. He shared the idea online, and suddenly this imaginary rowing sequence just exploded. It became the definitive sound, and honestly, the defining visual of the entire summer. And man, this thing spread like absolute wildfire. The visual footprint was literally everywhere. We're not just talking about football stadiums here. Picture this. Fans are doing the Viking row right in the middle of New York's Times Square. Politicians are rowing in the Norwegian parliament. You've got Royal Air Force pilots performing it inside F-35 fighter jet cockpits. And on the complete other end of the spectrum, 90-year-olds are doing it in rural care homes. It was everywhere. Now, to keep things totally objective in this explainer, we've got to look at the whole picture, because the reactions to this imagery were definitely mixed. On one hand, many celebrated it as pure cultural pride, just a harmless way to unify fans. But critics definitely pointed to a laddish vibe, arguing it promoted aggressive, toxic masculinity. There were also serious concerns raised by observers about far-right extremist groups co-opting Norse imagery. Oh, and Swedish historians actually chimed in to point out a glaring historical inaccuracy. Western Norwegian Vikings were actually sailors. The Swedes were the rowers. Debates aside, though, the absolute core of this explainer really boils down to just one number: 5.6 million. That is the entire population of Norway. Think about that for a second. How did a nation of just 5.6 million people assemble a football team capable of rattling the absolute titans of the sport? To understand that, you have to look at their momentum. Norway hadn't been to a World Cup in 28 years. But they didn't just quietly sneak back in, they kicked the door down. Following a completely flawless, undefeated qualifying campaign in 2025, they came out swinging. They crushed Iraq 4-1 in the opener, ground out a gritty 3-2 victory over Senegal, and secured a 2-1 knockout stage win against Ivory Coast. They were riding unprecedented momentum. But the climax of this historic run, that came in the round of 16. This was the moment literally everyone was waiting for. Norway found themselves facing the ultimate giant of the sport, the 5-time world champions, Brazil. This was pure David versus Goliath on the biggest stage imaginable. And against all odds, they actually pulled it off. A stunning 2-1 upset, built step by step. First, you've got 35-year-old goalkeeper Ørjan Nyland making massive game-saving stops against Brazilian superstars like Vinicius Jr. Then, late in the game, 79th minute, Andre Schulderup delivers a perfect cross, and Haaland smashes a downward header past Alisson to tie it. Finally, the absolute dagger. A 90th minute Haaland winner right through Danilo's legs. An unbelievable performance that locked in Norway's first ever quarterfinal appearance. So how on earth did they actually do it? Well, diving beneath the surface, Coach Ståle Solbaekken's 4-2-3-1 tactical blueprint is brilliant because it's built on a totally ego-free culture of collective defense. I mean, every single player has mandatory defensive tracking. That incredibly disciplined foundation allows Captain Martin Odegaard to act as the creative gravity in the center, pulling strings to open space. From there, they exploit Haaland's blistering speed in transition, all while anchoring the whole operation with center backs Auger and Hegema, just dominating aerial duels. And the proof of this system is honestly staggering. 37. That's how many goals Norway scored during their flawless 8-game qualifying campaign, while conceding only 5. They were an absolute offensive machine. All right, here is the massive plot twist of this whole explainer. You'd probably assume this elite machine was built through rigorous, high-pressure youth academies, right? But while global youth sports obsess over early specialization and prodigy pipelines,
Norway's model actively rejects all of that. Their system is built entirely on multi-sport participation, a joy-first philosophy, and, get this, absolutely no scorekeeping until kids are 13.
This whole philosophy stems from the 2007 NIF rights. Basically, Norway's sports governing body instituted these radical, mandatory rules to protect childhood joy. They essentially outlawed scorekeeping and trophies for kids under 9, and national championships strictly banned until age 13. The whole point is to ensure kids play for fun, with zero pressure. Because they weren't forced to specialize early, Norway's superstars spent their childhoods naturally playing totally different sports. Look at Erling Haaland. He was heavily involved in handball, cross-country skiing, and athletics. Alexander Sorloth did speed skating and handball. Goalkeeper Arjen Nyland was a competitive handball player. They naturally developed incredibly varied athletic profiles.
And the coolest part? You can literally see those childhoods playing out right there on the pitch. Think about Haaland's towering headers against Brazil. They are direct physical echoes of jumping to release a handball shot. His coiled, efficient striking power perfectly mirrors the force generation of a cross-country skier. And Nyland's miraculous mid-air penalty saves? They look exactly like the lateral spring of a handball goalkeeper. Their secret weapon wasn't just football practice. It was the mechanics they learned everywhere else. Tragically, though, the Cinderella story did eventually hit midnight. Their incredible run ended in the quarterfinals against a heavily favored England side, and it was a brutal finish. Despite dominating possession for the first 45 minutes, Norway suffered major heartbreak. A 90th minute goal from Hegem was controversially disallowed by VAR, and after 120 exhausting minutes, Jude Bellingham managed to score the extra time winner. But you know what? The mood back home wasn't defeated at all. It was totally triumphant. The Norwegian VG newspaper wrote, "We have never seen greater heroes. Norway is now establishing itself among the best in the world." The media and the fans proudly recognized that this wasn't just the end of a lucky streak. No, this was the fiery beginning of a brand new football revolution. So we're going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. In a hyper-competitive global sporting world, where children are scouted and pressured before they even hit middle school, did a nation of 5.6 million people just prove that the ultimate competitive advantage is simply protecting the joy of childhood? Did they just show us that the real secret to breeding world champions is, well, letting kids be kids? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.